before I get into the homily, earlier today, I posted on Facebook, and some of you can see it, I posted on Facebook a picture of the deacon's chair with the note, "Finally, we found a good use for the deacon's chair." Bill has already responded. You may know that Bill is out in Illinois at the moment. His grandson, his 4-year-old grandson, was diagnosed with a brain tumor. And they actually found it quite, I don't know how you find this by accident, but they weren't looking for it and found it. And so they had the surgery a little bit earlier this week, and he's there supporting the family. So we keep young Vinny and Deacon Bill and his family in our prayers. What did you go out to see? In our first reading, Isaiah talks about the things that the Messiah will do. And it's interesting. He doesn't say the Messiah will publish a good book. He doesn't say the Messiah will speak grandly. He doesn't say the Messiah will call everybody to orthodoxy. He says the Messiah will give hope. Joy will be renewed. The Messiah will bring peace. Justice will rain down from heaven. In our gospel passage, Jesus asked the people, "What did you go out to see? What were you looking for?" And all I could think of was the phrase that came from the early church. And I've used it in various homilies before, and you've all heard it. The thing that drove, the engine that drove the rapid expansion of the early Christians was, see how these Christians love one another. See how these Christians love one another. Since the early 1980s, our popes have been talking to us about a new evangelization. John Paul II first coined the phrase when he was speaking in Santo Domingo for the 500th anniversary of the evangelization of the Americas. And he called for a new evangelization. I think in order to understand that, we first had to go back and look at what was the first one. And the first one was not about catechesis, although that's important. The first one was not about sacraments, although that's important. The first one was not about any of the things that we immediately dove into. And books and workshops have come out and abound. The first evangelization was about, see how these Christians love one another. It was about the authentic living of people who believed in Jesus, and the authenticity of their lives attracted others, creating the whole movement of evangelization, the whole movement of Christianity. That's where it all begins. That's the first step. You don't really need to take a course. You don't really need to take a workshop. You don't really need to do any of those things. The only thing you and I need to do in order to respond to the new evangelization, to create a new outpouring of the Spirit around our world, is to authentically live what we say we believe. It's easier to take a course. It's easier just to, shoot for a C on an exam. It's a whole lot harder to authentically live the gospel. And yet, John the Baptist, when he sends his disciples out, he says, "I heard about this guy, go see what he does." And he says, the blind see, the lame walk, the poor have the good news proclaimed to them. These things were the authentic means for people to come to believe that the Messiah is among us. It was in word and action that the gospel was spread. What does that challenge us to today? How do we do that? All of us here are people of professions, either currently involved in a profession, or if we're retired, we used to be. And yet, in every single one of those of you involved in medicine, is your practice of medicine a practice of compassion, of genuine compassionate care? Those of you involved in law, is it genuinely seeking for justice? Those of you who are involved in education, is it genuinely helping people, empowering people to grow into the full person? As St. Irenaeus said, the greatest glory of God is man come fully alive. For us to become fully alive in the full potential of all that we are. Do we live lives of authenticity, honesty, compassion, mercy, forgiveness? Are those the stepping stones of our lives? I think if we as a community can genuinely engage that, and I'm here to tell you, you don't need a 3-credit course to do it. Even though as a teacher, I'd be more than happy to offer one. What we need is the will to convert our lives. Because the new evangelization begins not with the people out there, but with me in here. I'm the first one who needs to hear the gospel. I'm the first one who needs to hear the good news. I'm the first one who needs to be set free from blindness. I'm the first one who needs to be unhobbled from my own lameness. I'm the first one who needs to hear the gospel and respond. And that in the authenticity of my response, evangelization is sparked again. On this third Sunday of Advent, as we individually and as a community prepare for our celebration of Christmas, we have many gifts that we share. Much generosity in our community. Is there also the generosity of mercy, of compassion, of understanding? Those that went down to serve dinner down at Dorothy's Kitchen, and those that were cooking here, do you do it not just because you got to rack up the service points, because you genuinely care? Because it matters to you that somebody else is in need. These are the first steps of the new evangelization. This is what the new evangelization is about, and you don't need to spend a penny to do it. And yet it's probably the most expensive thing that we'll ever do, because it will cost us our lives.